Morenike wiped her face and glanced at the clock. 8:17 p.m. Too early to be tired. Yet her throat already burned. She cried on. As the night deepened, discomfort settled into her bones. Her back ached. Her legs tingled with numbness. She shifted slightly, then stilled herself. Do not adjust too much, she told herself. Do not break the rhythm. She looked at Kolawole again. His skin was grayer than she remembered. Not corpse grey, just drained. She leaned forward instinctively, then stopped herself. Do not touch him. That rule had never been spoken aloud, but she had always known it. By midnight, her tears felt thick, reluctant. Each sob took effort. Each breath scraped her chest. She felt hollowed out, like something was being drawn from her slowly, carefully. A strange smell crept into the room. Faint, almost unnoticeable. She sniffed quietly. It was not incense, not perfume, not decay. It smelled like damp earth. Her heart stuttered. She scanned the room. Nothing had moved. The coffee remained where it always stood. The walls were unchanged, the light steady, and yet the silence had deepened, not quiet, attentive. Morenike's crying softened without her intending it to. Her voice thinned, faltered. Immediately, pressure filled her chest. Not pain, pressure. As though something unseen leaned closer, she forced her voice louder, sharper, letting grief spill freely again. The pressure eased, but did not leave. By 3 a.m., exhaustion pressed heavily against her eyelids. Her mouth felt dry. Her tongue stuck to the roof of her mouth. Swallowing became difficult. She glanced toward the doorway leading to the kitchen. Just water, she thought. Just a sip. The clock glowed faintly. 3:08 a.m. I have been here for hours, she reasoned. 5 minutes will not undo everything. Her crying softened again, her voice trailing off into broken breaths. Nothing happened. No sound. No shift. Relief fluttered briefly in her chest. She rose slowly, careful not to rush, not to make noise. She took one last look at Kolawole's still form. I will be right back, she whispered. Then she stepped out of the living room. The kitchen lights came on softly. Morenike filled a glass with water, her hands shaking as she lifted it. She drank greedily, the coolness soothing her throat, grounding her body. She exhaled. Nothing followed her. No footsteps, no sound, no sudden change in the air. See, she told herself, nothing has happened. She wiped her mouth and turned back towards the living room. That was when the silence shifted, not broke, shifted. It felt as though something had noticed her absence. The air grew colder, sharp against her skin. The light in the hallway seemed dimmer, though it had not changed. Her heart began to race. She quickened her steps. As she approached the living room, a smell met her halfway, stronger now, earthly, metallic, wrong. She stopped at the threshold. The living room looked the same. The coffin stood where it always stood. The lights were on. Nothing appeared disturbed. And yet, the space felt occupied. Not by Kolawole, by something else. A weight pressed down on her shoulders, forcing her spine to bend slightly forward. Her breath caught in her throat. She rushed to the coffin. Kolawole lay exactly as before, hands folded, eyes closed. But his skin, it was grey. not dull, gray. She reached out and touched his hand. Cold, ice cold. Her breath. "Kola," she whispered. "It's me." She pressed her fingers to his wrist. Nothing. She leaned down, placed her ear close to his mouth. No breath. Her heart slammed violently against her ribs. "No," she whispered. "No, no, no." She shook her shoulder gently at first, then harder. "Kola, stop this," she said, panic creeping into her voice. "This is not funny. Nothing." She checked his chest. Still, her knees buckled, and she fell to the floor beside the coffin. The clock ticked loudly now, too loudly. She scrambled to her feet, slammed his face slightly, then harder still. "Kola!" she screamed. "Wake up!" Her voice echoed uselessly around the room. She glanced at the clock. 3:21 a.m. 14 hours remained. 14 hours until the ritual was meant to end. This is part of it, she told herself desperately. A deeper trance. It has happened before. It must have. But the room did not agree with her. The pressure returned, heavier now, pressing against her chest until breathing hot. Her ears rang faintly, as though submerged underwater. She dropped back to the floor and began to cry again. Not carefully, not rhythmically. She wailed, she begged, she screamed his name until her voice cracked completely. Nothing changed. The house did not respond. The air remained heavy. The silence remained alert. And somewhere deep inside Morenike, beneath fear and denial, a terrible understanding began to form. Slow, deliberate, undeniable. She had not just stepped out of the room. She had stepped out of the circle. Morning came without announcement. Morenike did not notice it at first. She remained on the floor, her back against the side of the coffin. Her body coiled inward like something trying to protect its last want. Her voice had gone hoarse long before dawn. The crying had turned into dry, broken sounds that barely counted as noise. At some point, the darkness softened. Light crept into the living room slowly, consciously, as though unsure it was welcome. That was when she realized she had been crying alone for a long time. Kolawole had not moved. She lifted her head and looked at him again. His skin had changed. Whatever faint illusion of life remained in the early hours was gone. His color was wrong now. Not grey, not pale, but waxy. Finished like a thing that had reached its final state. Her stomach turned. "No," she whispered weakly. She checked the time. 7:12 a.m. Her heart ceased. Morning had come and gone, and the house had not corrected itself. Still, she clung to the one thing that had never failed. 6 o'clock. That was the rule. No matter how long the night dragged, no matter how exhausted she became, by 6 p.m. on December 11th, Kolawole always sneezed. 3 times, then he rose. She stayed where she was. She did not leave the room again. She did not drink water. She did not eat. She did not sleep. She cried. Not because she believed it would work, but because stopping felt dangerous. The day dragged itself forward in pieces. At some point, neighbors began to play Christmas music more loudly. Laughter drifted in through the walls. The smell of food, frying onions, roasting meat, found its way into the house. Life continued, loud and careless. Inside the living room, time slowed. Every sound irritated her. Every laugh outside felt cruel. She counted minutes again. 12:43 p.m., 2:80 p.m., 4:07 p.m. Her eyes never left the clock. Her heart pounded harder with each passing second. It will work, she told herself. It always works. At 5:55 p.m., she stood. Her legs trembled violently, but she forced herself upright. She wiped her face with the sleeve of her dress. Her reflection stared back at her from the dark television screen. Swollen eyes, cracked lips, a woman who looked older than she was. She turned toward the coffin. Kolawole lay unmoving. 5:58 p.m. Her breathing quickened. 5:59 p.m. She waited. Her entire body leaned forward. Every sense sharpened. 6 p.m. Nothing. The room remained still. Her ears trained for it. The sneeze, that small familiar sound that had always broken the spell. She waited. 6:01 p.m. Silence. 6:03 p.m. Her heart began to race uncontrollably. No, she whispered. No, no, no. She stepped closer to the coffin. Kola, she said softly. It's time. She waited. 6:05 p.m. Nothing happened. Her hands began to shake. She touched his arm again. Stone cold. Her throat tightened painfully. 6:10 p.m. A sound escaped her, and that was not crying. It was raw, animal. She shook him violently. Kola, wake up. Please wake up. She slapped his face. Once, twice, again. His head rolled slightly to the side, lifeless. That was when it finally dawned on her. Not as panic, not as screaming, but as clarity. 6 o'clock was not late. 6 o'clock had not failed. 6 o'clock had come, and Kolawole had not followed it. Her knees gave way, and she collapsed beside the coffin. He's gone, she whispered. The words felt heavy in her mouth. Final, not borrowed, not ritual. Gone. Her mind raced backward, replaying the night again and again. The dryness in her throat, the water, the step into the kitchen, the silence that followed. Sunday's voice echoed clearly now, not even for a breath. Kolawole's words returned, sharper than ever. The vigil must never break. Her chest constricted as understanding settled fully. It had not been about the coffin. It had been about pretending to die. It had been about presence. Someone had to come to check, and she had not been there. Her phone buzzed suddenly beside her. She screamed. Her entire body jerked in shocks, and she stared at the screen with wide, terrified eyes. Then she saw it. Credit alert. A number so large it did not look real. Her breath caught painfully in her chest. Her gaze moved slowly from the phone back to the coffin. The transaction was complete. And for the first time since she had met him, Orenike understood the truth she had refused to see for 5 years. She had not been crying to keep her husband alive. She had been crying to keep herself safe. And now, something had been paid for. Something that was no longer Kolawole. Something that was waiting. Morenike did not pick up the phone immediately. It lay beside her on the floor, glowing faintly. The screen still lit from the credit alert. The number stared back at her like an accusation. Her hands strangled too much to touch it. Kolawole lay silent in the coffin, truly silent now. Not the borrowed stillness of past years. Not the quiet that waited to be broken by sneezes and stretching limbs. This silence had weight. She dragged herself closer to the sofa and sat there, staring at the far wall, trying to breathe through the tightness in her chest. Her thoughts moved slowly, like they were pushing through mud. There was only one person left to call. The number had been saved in her husband's phone under a name she had never dared to tap before. Baba Padakri. Kolawole had once told her to call it only in emergency. This was beyond emergency. Her fingers hovered over the screen for several seconds before she finally pressed call. The line rang once, twice. It picked up. Madam, a voice cracked. It sounded old, dry, like something that had spent too long speaking, only to silence. You have waited until the money entered. Her stomach dropped. How did he know money entered? Her voice cracked immediately. She swallowed and tried again. Something is wrong. My husband. You left him? The Baba interrupted calmly. The certainty in his tone stole her breath. I went to drink water, she stammered, just for a moment. I came back quickly. I continued crying. I did everything else. On the other hand, the Baba sighed slowly. Madam, he said, rituals do not understand almost. Tears blurred her vision. Please, she begged, tell me what to do. I have money. I can pay. I will pay anything. The Baba was silent for a moment. Then he laughed. It was not loud. It was not mocking. It was tired. There is nothing to fix, he said. Her chest. What do you mean? She whispered. This has worked for years. Yes, the Baba replied, because for years the rules were respected. She pressed the phone hard against her ear. What came? She asked shakingly. What did I leave him with? The Baba's voice lowered. The spirit of death came to check, he said, as it always does. Her knees felt weak. It does not come blindly, he continued. It comes to confirm. Confirm what? She asked. That the payment is present, he replied. That someone is standing between the borrower and collector. Her heart pounded violently. When it arrived, the Baba said, it found no money. So it took him, she whispered. It did not take him, the Baba corrected gently. It collected him. The word echoed in her ears. Collected. He was living on borrowed debt. The Baba continued. For years, your crying covered the debt. Your presence confused the balance. Her breath shook. When he stepped away, he said, the balance corrected itself. She clutched the phone, shaking her head as though he could see her. Bring him back, she cried. Please, tell me how. The Baba's voice hardened. Madam, he said, the only thing that returns from death is consequence. Her throat burned. Money has arrived, he continued. That means the contracts for the coming year have been sealed. Her heart slaughter. Contracts? She whispered. Yes, he said, and they require a living signature. Fear crawled up her spine. Whose? She asked. There was a pause. Then the Baba spoke slowly, deliberately. Yours. Her mouth went dry. I did not agree to that, she whispered. The Baba sighed again. You stayed, he said. You cried. You benefited. You are already inside. Tears streamed freely down her face. If I go to the police, she began, they will see a woman who kept her husband in a coffin. The Baba said calmly, they will not ask about spirits. If I call his family, they will ask what you were doing with the corpse before burial. He replied, they will not wait for answers. Her body shook with silent sobs. What should I do? She whispered. The Baba's voice softened slightly. Do not move the body until morning. Why? She asked. Because, he replied, wealth does not arrive alone. The line went dead. Morenike stared at the phone for a long time. Slowly, she lifted her eyes and looked at the coffin again. Kolawole lay where she had left him. But for the first time, she noticed something she had missed in her panic. His hands were no longer folded neatly across his chest. One finger had moved, just slightly, as though something else was learning how to use him. She felt it in a way the air rested too evenly, in how the silence did not echo but listened. Even the walls seemed closer than they had ever been, as though the space itself was waiting for a decision. Kolawole lay in the coffin, dead in the way that could not be negotiated, dead in the way that had already been accepted. Her son sat on the table, screen dark now, but heavy with meaning. She stood slowly and walked around the coffin. Once, twice, she had cried here for 5 years, poured grief onto a living man so wealth could remain alive. She had knelt in this exact place and begged death to look away. Now, death had looked, and it had not been angry. It had been precise. Moranike stopped pacing. The question was no longer what should I do? The question was what does this thing expect next? She thought of Papa's voice. Wealth does not arrive alone. She thought of Sunday's warning, not even for a breath. She thought of the message. Maintenance is due next December. Her breath slowed. Maintenance meant continuity. Continuity meant a role. And roles, she had learned, did not remain empty for long. She went to the bathroom and washed her face. The woman who looked back at her from the mirror did not look possessed or mad. She looked tired, older, like someone who had finally understood the cost of comfort. She returned to the living room and sat on the floor, not because she was weak, but because that was where the truth waited. She picked up Kolawole's phone, scrolled, found Sunday's number. Her finger hovered over it. Then she stopped. Sunday was not the solution. It was evidence. She put the phone down. Instead, she opened her banking app. The number stared back at her again. Large, solid, final. She whispered, so this is how it works. The house did not respond, but she felt something ease. Not approval, acceptance. Morenike stood up, went to the backyard, and brought out the shovel. She did not rush. She did not cry. She dug carefully, methodically. When the hole was deep enough, she returned to the living room. Kolawole was still lying there, calm and complete, like a man who had finished his part. She closed the coffin properly this time, not as part of a ritual, as a conclusion. By noon, the garden looked undisturbed, clean, ordinary. That afternoon, she sent messages. Kolawole had traveled suddenly, business emergency. Abroad, she would join him later. People responded with concern, with envy, with prayers. No one questioned her. That evening, she sat alone in the living room, surrounded by Christmas decorations that now felt ironic rather than joyful. Her phone buzzed once more. A message came in. You have chosen correctly. Her chest tightened. Then another message followed. Rest, you will be needed. Morenike placed the phone face down. She finally cried then, not loudly, not dramatically, just enough to remind herself she was still human. Outside, Christmas lights flickered on as night fell. Inside, Morenica understood the final truth of the covenant. She had not escaped it, she had inherited it. And when December came again, the coffee would not be empty. African folk tales and stories like this, please do well to like, leave a comment, share the story with your loved one, and finally, best, kindly subscribe. Subscription is free. Just you tapping on that button. Besties, encourage it to bring interesting stories like this for your entertainment. And don't forget, this is African Echoes by One Nick, where you have real take original stories written. Until I come your way again, besties. For now, bye.